Now we're going to hear what it was like to be photographed by Chris Chapman. In fact, what it still is like to be photographed by Chris Chapman. I'm delighted to welcome Colin Pearse, if you'd like to step up here, Colin, Dartmoor farmer, poet and author. He has written, you may have seen at the back, the definitive work on the history of the South Devon cattle. So there was no one better to ask over lunch whether Mark Hayworth Booth's assertion that South Devon cattle didn't do well in North Devon, ask whether that was true. I think, Colin, you assured me that once you get north of the A30 between Exeter and Oakhampton, South Devon cattle do not fare well. So I hesitate to say you have it from the horse's mouth, but you certainly have it from the author's mouth. Colin, you and your family have been photographed by Chris Chapman over the years in all weathers for many occasions, and so we're really looking forward to hearing from you on what it was like for you to be photographed by Chris Chapman. Thank you.
That was a wonderful talk that preceded me. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris and Robin Ravilious and the chair, Simon Timms, home is Throwley, or is it Throwley to Chris in dialect. Before I came, I fed the cows and the mother-in-law. Not necessarily in that order. They say when you can see Dartmoor, it's going to rain, and last night it did. And when you can't, it is. This is a privilege to do something here today. So, it's quite a bit about Chris. So, it's 4 a.m. one morning. Who else might one see at this ungodly time of the day, striding across the moors, with camera in hand and backpack too, but our Dartmoor photographer, Chris Chapman, while the rest of the world is sleeping, and films he does in awe as Dartmoor sleeps time away too. A school certificate of merit awarded to my father-in-law in 1922, William White, at Chapman School 100 years ago, also has an interesting verse added to the certificate, and amusingly, I think the words might have a similarity to Chris and his active life. It says, "The heights of great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, whilst their companions slept, were toiling upwards in the night, not to be taken seriously, but later, to my luck, William White became, my father-in-law became a very important moorman. In fact, a unique moorman on Dartmoor. And I follow that track with a poem. And where I walk too. So I too walk the history beneath my feet, in field and barn and yard and moor, along Dartmoor's sunken lanes. At first light I glance over growth-wrapped hedges where butterflies dance, through well-trodden gateways that I peep, granite framed with posts to hang the 5-bar wooden gate, set to rotate the stock and protect the growing crop. For 50 years of photography for James and Chris, presented here at this wonderful venue that helps highlight local history. I've been asked to talk about the experiences of being filmed. Are you hearing me at the back? Maybe. Hope not. I'll go through that again. 50 years of photography for James and Chris presented here at this wonderful venue that helps highlight local history. I've been asked to talk about the experiences of being filmed by Chris Chapman. Entertaining. Dartmoor folklore. Dartmoor folklore, hidden, concealed, and could have stayed that way, and its occupants preoccupied in their own world, if Chapman, camera in hand, hadn't seen something special to photograph on Dartmoor, and James Ravilious in North Devon. Gifted in his career, and leaving an indelible legacy to be handed down, respected, protected, valued, and remembering people of a close survival past, and Chris passionate, easily moved to strong feelings for his subject. The speed at which Chris takes his images overall under Dartmoor folk was significant to me. Yet at least one image recovered of the desired standard was special to the folk he photographs. Snap, snap, click, click went the camera. Chris, bold and resolute, committed to his cause, showing his individuality and hugely recognisable with grey, stiff, whiskery facial hair. I'll repeat that. But a correctness and precision in his work, and with charisma, and enough inspiration to freeze any subject from Chapman's camera. But for me, expectation for its outcome. But a smiling grin he hides underneath, and a deep commanding voice, packed with pride at collecting his images with friendship and fond memories, on stumbling onto our Dartmoor life, with Backwithy stamped on his chest. Now owned by Hazel Pearse, Nee White, my wife, custodian to a famous beam that once held the 20-score pig, is seen there, filmed by Chris originally. At this time, dated black and white photography allows an aging process of rural life to be immortalised and seems more graphic, appropriate to the life at the time, a reproduction favoured in black and white by Chris. So it also seems dated and has Chris's hallmark on it. Being photographed by Chapman confirms what great photographers see before they even photograph their subject and reproduce in a flash, but composing their picture before taking it, as he did with me. Country scenes etched on a person's face in their own surroundings, recorded history and folklore, photographed and embedded in its own self-sufficiency. Chris's people power of those working the land and more has preoccupied his photographic life. Chris's people power of those working the land and more has preoccupied his photographic life, and a situation evolved locally over centuries of care and inheritance he encapsulated and recorded with dignity and in an unselfish manner these 50 years. Also, he was impressed by the special skills of the Moor people. They were self-taught, and the skills passed on in families was a must. The experience of being photographed by Chris Chapman starts when the lens of my eye meets the lens of Chris's camera as he takes my image and subject, dressed in Dartmoor history and all around. And all around oozing Dartmoor folklore in my family, and the photographic genius of Chapman kicks in. This confirmed with a special lens. So men of our time includes Chris. The energy of Chris is like an athlete with wings. It's supposed to be funny. and Chris rising as early as 4 a.m. and hearing the dawn chorus. So he's very much an early bird, while I'm very much still asleep. Chris also committed to following worldwide those 3 hairs, very elusive, and travelling with others to discover carved symbols abroad. Now, my marriage into the White family provided more photographic material using our farms at Barrymore and Beaford as a springboard on Dartmoor, and finding untapped folklore history all over the moor. So a mutual feeling of satisfaction and shared fulfilment from our family venues, captivated by Chris in the 1970s with his renowned photographic eye. To see this photography is to understand the man. The captivated and immortalised moments in time on the moor, fixed and developed in a dark room, never to lose again Dartmoor's folklore, carefully filed and put away. As a farmer and countryman myself, deep-rooted in farming, countryside history, I have in animal and landscape generous Dartmoor material for Chris's photography, and where some traditional folk still reside, speckled around the moor, providing iconic photographic opportunity. Chris captured what he saw on arrival to Dartmoor with a scene of the centuries that have changed. So his timing was important and seemingly ordained to see and record the moor people before the lifestyle changed and was forever lost and disappearing on farms and down lanes. And from Chris's book, I love the title, The Right Side of the Hedge, provided shade in heat, shelter in heavy rain, protection from drifting snow, capturing the instinct of animals in a field. Chris acquired a passion for this corner of Devon that rewards us like a place called heaven. Robin Ravilious confirming James's archive with her own publication, marking James's time in photography, the books I have too. Beatrice Chase, poet and author at Whitcomb in the Moor, rode to the hills of Dartmoor, as blue as high Severn, as dusk as lowest hell, as golden as the sunlight. My hills, what is your spell? No doubt this spell experienced by Chris of the Moor. Therapeutic when the chips are down, and reassuring when he captures moments so inspiring and natural, yet providing quality from images seen locally by Chris. So rural Dartmoor remembered in black and white photography, originally in a secluded dark room at the tithe barn, slowly. It recorded stumbling around gorse and rowan and rock and fern with cameras large and small to reproduce reality. A significant photo Chris produced at Barrymore was placing iconic white-faced sheep and lambs around a granite trough. Barrymore was my previous spot. A sheep lambed by Chris. He insisted he lambed the sheep, and he was successful, and it's somewhere here. The sheep, one of England's oldest, the white-faced sheep, one of England's oldest breeds of sheep. And myself sat on a family granite trough. All this would have been left to the imagination and memories, and only verbal, spoken around a hearth fire, and could have been lost in time. And so we owe Chapman a huge debt. We are proud and ensure the history is appreciated with two great photographers. Last page. Much photography was taken in farmyards, especially the tradition of milking by hand, cows in shippings, and stood in yards along with Chris and James, filming this. So no wonder James and Chris couldn't record these scenes of peace and love enough times. They couldn't record it enough times. In unique rural settings, where the tractor was set to replace the cart horse, meant less of the romantic feeling that followed that previously bonded man with beast, that invited sensitive photography and gave unforgettable memories, recording a natural bond of folk and animals before mechanisation, leaving me humbled in this 50th anniversary, inspired and grateful, and a beneficiary of local history, captured with talent, foresight and foreseeing that may not have been celebrated, and a vital connection for a generation to come. And Devon's history society could have been very much the poorer. And finally, for me, that camera unannounced, always ever ready when Chris appeared, guaranteed he'd want to take one's photo framed by Dartmoor and family history, and with me not posing, Chris choosing his moment to record what he saw, his way, embracing his individual photographic skill, repeated many times around the moor over a much recorded, remembered time in its history. There is still a variety in modern farming that will create its own archive in time and be informative and rewarding in its own right. Thank you.